Hey there, I'm Brandon. This is the Dirt Church Devotional. Yeah, I love this time of year, Christmas time, the lights and the music and the traditions and all that. I can remember as a kid, and well, not even as a kid, as an adult, the Christmas pageants that we'd have at church. And you always had the shepherds and the angels and the star and the manger and Mary and Joseph and the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes. And it's awesome. I love it. I mean, that is good news. That's great news. Especially the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger because there was no room in the inn. Have you ever stopped and wondered, though, why he was in a manger and there was no room in the inn? Let me put it to you like this. There's a lot of stuff that was prophesied about the coming Messiah. Being born in a barn and lying in a manger was not one of them. So it's got to make us wonder, why? Why did that happen? I submit this to you, and I know that there's some people that they give me a little bit of blowback, but I'll talk about that. But I submit this to you. He was placed in a manger, born in a barn, no room in the inn, because although Joseph and Mary were expecting Jesus, they weren't ready when he came. Oh, they were expecting him for 9 months. They had had miraculous things happen. They'd had angelic visitations. They knew he was coming. They expected him to come. But it says there in Luke chapter 2, right about verse 6, after it explains that Caesar Augustus made this decree that everybody had to go to their own town to be counted for this census, and it happened in the time of Quirinius and all that, and Joseph and Mary went to Bethlehem because he was from the family of David, and anyway, they went there. It's interesting, it says about verse 6, it says, while they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. There's a time frame. And the time came for the baby to be born. And when that time came, they weren't ready. There was no room. They hadn't planned ahead. They hadn't, Joseph hadn't gone on Expedia or whatever and made plans to have a room set up. And so, fortunately, they were able to stay in the stable, and she gave birth to her firstborn. And I'm not saying anything bad about Joseph or Mary. I think they were probably busy doing good things. He was closing up shop. He was a carpenter. He was maybe finishing the table and chairs. He was making sure they had enough money to get to Bethlehem. They were making sure that there was enough food for the donkey to get them to Bethlehem. He was making sure there was enough clothes and blankets and pillows and whatnot to keep Mary comfortable. They were doing all these things because she was expecting, but he got really busy with other stuff and forgot to make the reservations. He was expecting, but he wasn't ready. Jesus tells this story. He tells a parable in Matthew 25, starting in verse 1, and it's about 10 virgins that were waiting for the bridegroom to show up. And it says, out of these 10 virgins, 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. And the wise ones took extra oil with them because they didn't know how long it was going to be till the bridegroom got there. And the foolish ones didn't take extra oil. And they sat around and they waited and they waited and they waited. And finally, about midnight, after they'd fallen asleep, about midnight, the cry rang out, hey, get ready, the bridegroom's here. And so they got ready, they trimmed their candles, their lanterns, and it turns out the 5 wise ones, they had enough oil. The foolish ones were like, hey, give us some oil, we don't have enough, it might burn out before he gets here. And the wise ones were like, hey, we don't have enough oil for us and you, because he could still be a ways off. Go get some oil for yourselves. And while they were gone, Jesus said that the bridegroom came, and those wise virgins who were ready went in with him. And the whole point of this parable was to remind us that you can be expecting but not be ready. Those foolish virgins, they were expecting the bridegroom to come. They just weren't ready for it. And my fear is that there may be a lot of Christians, a lot of people that go to church, a lot of people that have had experiences who are expecting Jesus to come again because, well, he said he would. But unfortunately, they might not be ready. Maybe they're too busy doing other things. Maybe they're doing good things, but they aren't focusing on exactly what the Lord has asked them to do. And so while they're expecting, they maybe aren't ready. I hope that's not you. I hope that this Christmas season, even today, you'll think about this, and you might think, well, that's kind of odd that he would say that about Mary and Joseph, and I'll finish up in just a second, but I hope that you'll ask the Lord, hey, I'm expecting, but am I ready? I want to be ready when you come. I want to be prepared when you come. Now, I said I'd go back and I'd talk about Mary and Joseph and kind of clean this up a little bit. I see this and the fact that it's recorded here for us to see for all eternity. I see this really as a monumental expression of grace on the part of God. You see, God sent forth his perfect plan, but it was executed imperfectly by his people. Mary and Joseph, hey, let's face it, they messed up. I mean, this isn't the only time. Look a little bit later when Jesus was 12 years old, they lost him for a day. Come on. They weren't perfect. Don't deify them. They weren't perfect. But here's where grace comes in. Even though they weren't quite ready, when God sent the angels to make the announcement to the shepherds and the shepherds came and visited, he did not send the angel again to say, hey, you know what? You weren't quite ready. Let's hand this baby Jesus over to one of these shepherds. I think they could do a better job. Or let's hand this baby Jesus over to the innkeeper or somebody else that's on top of things. You've done your part. You messed up. Too bad. There was grace. There was grace then. There's grace now for you. Get ready. All right. That's all I got. Chew on that for a while. Lord bless you. Have a great day. And if I don't see you, have a Merry Christmas.